So thank you, Uni, and thank you for having me in this wonderful session. So I'm going to be talking to you about imaging biomarkers, and these are the ones. With cutting edge advances in OCT imaging, this is how we're beginning to see macular images. It's almost optical histology. And to the extent that imaging has now become an almost integral component of a definition of a biomarker, which is useful in helping us diagnose and prognosticate macular diseases. I'm going to be focusing in this segment on biomarkers are more relevant to diabetic macular edema. My other esteemed colleagues have covered that with AMD and will do so also. So DRIL, the first one, is disorganization of the retinal inner layers as defined as the horizontal extent on STOCT within which any of these boundaries are indistinguishable. Ganglion sun to inner plexiform layer complex, inner nuclear layer, outer plexiform layer. DRIL is a standalone entity which is assessed independent of intraretinal cysts, ERMs, and other OCT evident pathology. Now, DRIL is typically seen in active diabetic macular edema, skytic in this case, and with the ellipsoid zone ELM discontinuity seen, and an ERM also thrown in. But it's also seen in isolation, and in such cases, it can be a surrogate marker for macular edema having been there. Now, Jennifer Sun's group with Lloyd Elo from the Joslin Center, they were one of the first to look at this, and they, in a retrospective study, looked at about 120 eyes with baseline center involved DME with STOCT, baseline 4 and 8 months. They looked at the foveal central 1 millimeter wide retinal area and looked at DRIL and a number of outer retinal segment biomarkers, including hyperreflective foci. And they found an increase in DRIL in 4 months, which is associated with poor acuity at 8 months. But more interestingly, they found multivariate model, which is a composite of 4-month change in acuity, DRIL, and ELM disruption, which was the most predictive of 8 months visual acuity status. And they went on impressively to quantify it. At 4 months, they found that a 250 micron increase in DRIL, none of these patients had a one-line improvement. When they bumped it up to 300 microns, they found a 300 micron increase in DRIL was associated with worsening in acuity with all patients. On the other hand, a 250 micron decrease or improvement in DRIL, none of them had a one-line decline. 77% had improvement one line. Radha Das et al. From Usha Chakravarti's group in the Belfast University looked at a cross-sectional observation study with 80 individuals. They looked at 9 different parameters, DRIL included, and the outer retinal biomarkers. So they found that the odds of having DRIL were greater in eyes with disrupted external limiting membrane, disrupted ellipsoid zone, presence of epiretinal membrane, increase in foveal retinal thickness, and proliferative diabetic retinopathy. But the odds ratio was strongest with disrupted ELM and proliferative diabetic retinopathy. They found that mean acuity decreased by approximately 6 letters for every 100 micron increase in the average global DRIL. Radha did a very interesting study also. They looked at a retrospective longitudinal cohort study where they looked at 70 eyes with center-involved macular edema that had resolved during the 8-month period. They looked at the central 1500 microns, looked at DRIL, OR anomalies, and correlated to acuity. They were grouped on the basis of macular edema, diabetic versus non-diabetic. They looked at the DRIL resolution profile in these patients and the influence on acuity with DME, the resolver. So they classified into 4. Early resolvers, those that had resolution of more than 50% of the baseline DRIL length at the first or second visit and remained stable or improved by the end of the study. Then they had late resolvers, the same thing, but resolution in the 3rd or 4th visit, a little later. Then they had the third, inconsistent, resolution of more than 50% of the baseline DRIL length at any point with subsequent recurrence. Persistence was those that never showed resolution of more than 50% of the baseline DRIL length at any time during the study, despite resolution of DME. Not surprisingly, they found that the best acuity gainers were those with no baseline DRIL, followed by early resolvers, then late resolvers, then inconsistent, and finally the worst were those with persistent DRIL. In other words, if you have 100 patients where DME is resolved, those that will have the best acuity will be the ones where DRIL has resolved the fastest. So the pathogenesis postulates correlation hypothesis for DRIL. It is hypothesized to result when bipolar axons snap after their elasticity limit has been exceeded due to the mechanical effect of the edema. Collateral damage also to amacrine cells, horizontal cells, inner retinal barrier breakdown, and DRIL is better correlated with visual acuity improvement, even better than the baseline visual acuity. So it's a better surrogate marker of final acuity. And this correlation was stronger with non-DME macular edema, like RVO macular edema, uveitic macular edema, than DME itself, because DME has actually many other chemokines active, possibly. and it predates all the other abnormalities that we're talking about, ELM, EZ, etc. Now, parallelism is a mathematical tool that's come very recently, very interesting one, to evaluate the anatomical congruity of the photoreceptor RPE complex. It is a parameter reflecting the mutual orientation of these segmented lines on SDOC, calculated using line segments generated by filtering and thresholding the original image with this complex formula. It's binarized to range from 0 to 1. And obviously, more parallel lines have higher parallelism. So this is how they constructed a horizontal line scan from SDOCT image, magnified central 1000 into 1550 micron area, filtered application of a bandpass filter for noise reduction and enhancement of these line segments. Use a thresholding with binarized image after using what's called the Otsu's thresholding method for automatic binarization, and then you generate this skeletonized image. Now, Uji et al. Did a retrospective study with 90 DMEIs and 30 controls, used these parallelism constructs and tried to interpret the relationships of interrelation with photoreceptor status, ELM integrity, EZ integrity, and the outer retinal hyperactive foci in relation to the equity. And they classified the inner segment ellipsoidal line as a complete line in the fovea was inner segment ellipsoidal line plus a discontinuous line, inner segment ellipsoid plus minus. When it could not be detected at all, it was inner segment ellipsoid minus. The same thing was done with ELM, ELM plus minus, ELM minus. And these are the URLs for the softwares used. So some examples: patient with good congruity, equity 2025, foveal thickness 440 microns, no HRF in the outer retinal layers. Note that ELM plus and inner segment ellipsoid line disrupted plus minus. Parallelism quite good, 0.689. Example of one with a poor equity 2050, foveal thickness 640, 2 microns. HRF is present in the outer retinal layers. So there is inflammation probably happening right there. ELM plus minus, inner segment ellipsoidal line disrupted, again plus minus, fairly poor parallelism, 0.492. So they found that both logmar equity and parallelism were significantly reduced in eyes with DME compared to normal eyes. They also found strong correlation, ellipsoidal line and ELM integrity and absence of the outer retinal layer hyperretinal foci with parallelism and visual equity, as you can see in the graph. One advantage to this technique is it's faithful to the original image and avoids issues related to segmentation errors. Capillary macronism, another fairly recently understood entity described by Borges et al. First, recommended the word telangiectatic capillaries to avoid confusion with the retinal artery macronism. It is associated with chronic macular edema because of vascular causes, vascular occlusions, fairly refractory to anti-VEGF treatment. So this shows how ICG beautifully delineates the progressive filling of the capillary macroaneurysms. ICG also helps in distinguishing micro from these macroaneurysms. You see microaneurysms diminish and fade away, whereas capillary macroaneurysms increase conversely in intensity and size. Distinguishing FFA, ICG, and OCT. FFA is not really useful. There's a diffuse leakage which kind of camouflages this. ICG you saw, beautiful light filling. And OCT shows a hyper-reflective wall with lumen containing variable reflective material. Microcystoid macular edema, again something which has come up recently, is defined as microcysts in the inner nuclear layer of the retina. Most acceptable pathophysiology, Muller cell dysfunction, seen in a wide spectrum of disease like AMD, DR, RVO, etc. An example here from severe NPDR. So in the MACTEL group also looked at this. They looked at a cohort and they found MME in about 6.4% of the cases. Mean number was 12.9. Most common location, again, they confirm inner nuclear layer. Least common affected region, INQ, inferonasal quadrant of macula. Mean diameter was 31 microns, ranging from 15 to 80. And they found that these were almost entirely distributed within the assumed macular area on blue light reflectance. Now, Govet et al. Did something interesting. They looked at MME in ERMs and influence of glaucoma, and they found that MME was found in 20% of ERM cases. Incidence increased with the stage of the ERMs and with the stage of glaucoma. In glaucoma cases, MME may be a sign of retrograde maculopathy. And while it was predominantly seen in the INL, they also found pseudocysts in the advanced stages. And they found that MME resolved significantly only in non-glaucoma cases, and there was persistence of this MME in glaucoma cases. That's why it's important when you see this in the ERMs or not, look for glaucoma coexistence. Also found in systemic conditions like multiple sclerosis. Ulano did something interesting. Look for these in post-vitrectomy gas cases as causes of unexplained visual loss. They found it in 2.5% of their cases with vitrectomy gas, macular on RDs. Median post-op acuity was finger counts. All eyes had this MME and reduced thickness of both macular ganglion cell and retinal fiber layers. The absolute central photomuscle. Surprisingly, none had photoreceptor structural damages at all. Hyperreflective foci, we already talked about it, previous speakers. HRF, small, discrete, well-circumscribed dot-shaped lesion equal or greater reflectivity than the RPE band on SD-OCT in the outer retinal layers. An example of HRF in PDR DME. And first described by Balls et al. In patients with diabetes. A sign of vascular permeability, hyperpermeability might correspond to deposited lipoproteins, lipid-laden macrophages, debris of photoreceptors, and RPE hyperplasia. And Huang et al. Did something very interesting. They looked at cases of DME and RBO in a retrospective study, and they defined it similarly. And they put a number to it, 20 to 40 microns. This is the size. So these patients all had 3 injections of bevacizumab. Non-responders from these were treated with Ozurdex. They found that the HRD number was more in bevacizumab non-responders than responders. 75%, 3/4 of the bevacizumab non-responders responded to Ozurdex. HRD number conversely was more in Ozurdex responders than non-responders, so opposite to bevacizumab. And they postulated that HRD was possibly a sign of a marker of inflammation because of the great response to steroids and microglia and cell debris to be important. So they suggested that there was a therapeutic role, therefore, of steroids in anti-VEGF non-responders. So HRF also increases with the stage of diabetic retinopathy. From no DR to PDR, you see this number of spots increasing. And it's an early sign of blood-retinal barrier breakdown. Some of the postulates suggested molar cell breakdown products, RP cell migration, but what we believe now is it's an incipient form of heart disease. So here you have HRF, an example, and HRF and DME improving and regressing with anti-VEGF therapy. So it's considered a nascent form of heart disease. It's almost considered like sub-threshold disease, signals BRB breakdown, and in AMD, it's the first to resolve and the first to recur in a relapse. In DA patients, we can see. Outer retinal abnormalities, integrity of outer retinal layers is a direct indicator of the health and the retinal photoreceptors and RP, photoreceptors length and integrity. So cross length was significantly lesser in eyes with diabetic retinopathy or DME compared with healthy subjects or diabetic patients with no retinopathy. So this is a case where of chronic DME, where you can see progressive loss of the EZ ELM over time without treatment. And this is an example of a chronic DME case in one of our patients where there showcases ELM EZ resilience. This patient was lasered elsewhere, came in 10 months of, because of the pandemic. There was a delay. Patient came here after 10 months. 5 by 6 we start off with 5 injections in 7 months, 4 ranibizumab. Last one was bevacizumab. And you see how the recovery of the ELM EZ. So the ELM EZ can be resilient if you treat, and you should treat early. The BRBs and the OR microcosm nexus, you see, I'll just put it in short. In diabetic macular edema, the pathology comes from the top down. So the drill and the IP-INL area are affected first compared to the ELM. AMD, it's the other way around. Outer retinal tubulations, I think Uni has already kind of touched upon this. It's degenerative cystic photoreceptors. And this is the pathology, focal disruption of the PR layer in vaccination of remaining cells and lateral contact and feeds ORT. Just a small example of a case, a chronic case with an ORT there. Treatment, the CNV reduced, but the ORT is actually increased and coalesced to form a giant ORT. You can also see this in geographic atrophy cases. So in summary, drill, an early sign of loss of inner retinal architecture, the bipolar cell snap happens. Parallelism is a mathematical model where there's architectural congruity throwing up the PR-RP complex. Capillary macular chronic macular edema. In those cases, you'd find this. ICG-OCT is better than FFA. Lasers may be indicated. MME, microcystoid macular edema, microcysts in the INL, molar cells implicated, hyperreflective foci, form of nascent hard exudates, inflammatory marker perhaps, and is a good prognosticator. Outer retinal complex, the EZ, ELM, the cross showcase the photoreceptor integrity. Thank you.